Hello and welcome to this episode of the AI Watch. Today we have Niels from Cobham Satcom with us. My name is Bjørn and I'm from 2021. We'll be talking about how it is to actually implement AI and how Niels as a CIO has been experiencing this. Welcome Niels.
Thank you.
First of all, maybe you could tell us a bit about your role as a CIO in Cobham Satcom to kind of start things off.
Sure. My role at Cobham Satcom is to besides the daily operation and in, say, normal business-driven IT project, is to help the company drive efficiency using new technologies wherever appropriate. And that's basically the reason why we're here today.
Mm-hmm. Great. I know that you've been doing an AI project, but what kind of sparked the interest of starting out with AI in Cobham Satcom?
What really started this out was an idea that's been brewing between myself and a colleague for some time about how to get better transparency and prediction into our supply chain of components. All our products has a huge amount of electronic components in them, and as everybody knows, electronic components is a scarce resource. So how do we get more transparency into that to make better decisions? How do we ensure that we know when an electronic component is about to be either obsolete or becoming a resource, a limited resource, and thus either driving a lead time or a price increase. The sooner we get to that, we know that, the faster we can act.
So it's been more precise insights into what's going to happen?
It's more precise insights to what's going to happen, because at the end of the day, we serve our customers. Our customers are basically partners. Their demand, how do we serve that best? And making sure that we have the products available when they have a need, it's key to enabling their business.
And for the ones out there who doesn't know what Cobham Satcom do, it's you mentioned there was a lot of components in there.
It's satellite devices, satellite components, satellite products that manage the communication to and from satellites. So antennas, modems on ships, cars, whatever.
You've just been through a project. What was kind of the journey, the key phases, milestones in it?
Well, the key phases was originally this idea. What can we do to improve transparency, make better decisions, reduce lead time, and also reduce cost? We had a conversation with our head of procurement. He added that you also need to look into to the forecast, the demand forecast, of course, for the products, but then you also need to look into the sales forecast. So how do we improve predictability in the sales forecast? Because that leads into our demand forecast. Couple that with how do we have greater visibility into all the components, and we have several hundred products, each of them with a bill of material on average 700 components. Nobody can look across them and have an overview, human beings. Then building proof of concept on that.
So did you use the proof of concept to convince the rest of the business?
Yes, exactly. So we built a proof of concept, and that allows us to both showcase that it was actually working, and also to build a business case. To get some credibility into the business case. Up until then, it was more assumptions.
Yeah.
Based on that, two things: choosing the partner, that would be you in this, and then presenting it to the rest of the senior management, both to give a sneak peek in terms of what the solution was like, but also to address some of those questions, concerns regarding governance, regarding security, regarding costs.
This is a bit of a biased question, but when we decided, or you decided that let's pitch the pilot here and get started and show some results of the business, We came in with an AI platform, and you could argue that it was maybe a bit overkill for a pilot, but how has the experience been working with a provider like us, where you get a let's call it a pre-cooked platform? What has the experience been after the pilot and the ongoing development?
We probably underestimated that in the beginning. The need to have a platform. What we are doing and the type of business and the type of customers we're dealing with, everything compliance-wise just gets more and more important. So having a platform established from the get-go, which allows us to have the governance, both governance built in from the get-go, but also allows us to improve of that and to expand on that governance in various applications, that is going to be a huge benefit from us. I will expect that will be the same regardless of industry, that you will get some requirements when it comes to you can prove what is it your AI models are doing, that you can prove that it's well documented and all that. And getting that in with a platform that makes it so much easier. And we've seen that benefit from those two use cases that we've actually developed there afterwards.
So the business case kind of gave good results. That was presented for the business. I'm glad that you brought us in presenting this. But I also sense that like many other companies I meet out there, that there's no track record of buying AI systems. So
exactly.
People would like to kind of, see what is this about. There's a lot of interest in the beginning. Cases are all over the place, new ideas, cases. So
new ideas and wild cases are being floated around with huge benefits and all that. And that can probably be a little bit difficult from time to time to sort of boil that down to a context that fits to your own organization. In our case, we did the proof of concept and showed that by just using the technology, we could get to the same results when it came to predict the risk on components faster than any of our senior procurement, and validated against that person that the results were right. Then we're still struggling a little bit on the sales forecast part.
But maybe that is a great overlap to the next question I actually had, because what have been the challenges? Is it a technical challenge? Is the model not performing, or is it a change management, or why are you bringing up this with the...
Change management, absolutely. That's first. Another thing is data quality. Our data quality is of a very high level when it comes to knowing what goes on with these components. Also very high data quality. Then the last thing I want to touch upon is you still need to bridge that gap between the data science, regardless of how well they are in understanding your business and your subject matter experts, because it is still two different worlds.
It's not the same logic.
No, exactly.
So communication, change management has actually been the biggest challenges.
Absolutely.
In this. Niels, maybe for the ones who haven't been part of the project like you and I, what components, what areas are included in the AI solution you decided to go with?
So first and foremost, it's a sales forecast, demand forecast, looking at components availability.
Yeah.
Right. So sales forecast wise, what we did was train the model on our entire CRM data set for the past 8 years. And what we did there was simply to train it to ensure that we knew cases that we have won or lost, what's the predictability in that, what's the score. So we got some accuracy into that. What we realized was that we could fairly easily get to an accuracy of somewhere in the high 70s in predictability of opportunities.
So out of cases in your CRM system, you could tell which one would be one with that kind of accuracy.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Of course, that's interesting because that leads into the demand forecast. Because then you have a much better input into the demand forecast. You look at all the components. You look at the component library. You look at the component availability. Put all that into the model, and that allows us to get a view on a bill of material level. Each of the components, how are they progressing in terms of availability, price, how many years, months left until that component is becoming end of life and stuff like that. Do we have, on each component, do we have alternatives available. If not, then that component is a higher risk.
As you mentioned, 700 products with 700 components in average to monitor manually or with AI instead.
Exactly, and that I mean that's a no-brainer, right?
Final question, I think here. But looking back, key lesson learned. What would you tell another CIO that maybe haven't started their AI journey yet? Let's start with the easy part. What was easy?
Well, the easy part in our case was that we had the CRM data for 8 years in the same system, and the same to some extent for our components. Again, our bill of materials very structured. Start out in an area where data is of a certain quality. Otherwise, there is the risk of spending a lot of time chasing that data quality. But again, do not let the data as such dictate, but because at the end of the day, you need to solve a business problem. If you don't have a problem in an area where you have fine data, congratulations.
I remember looking at some of your CRM data with the data scientists when we were presenting, and lack of data was actually an indicator of a opportunity, not really one. So bad data could also be a signal of something bad is about to happen.
Absolutely.
Or something will not happen.
That's number one. Number two is that you don't have to save the entire world in the first go. So instead of spending 18 months on that, let's do something that is much more compressed and where we can get some tangible benefits right away. After that, build a roadmap, because the ideas comes, and try to formalize that roadmap.
It's not going to be, as you're saying, it's not going to be one model that fixes an entire company. For me, it's kind of like when we were all talking RPA or the robot process automation, that it's not one automation that is fixing a company. It's a lot of small improvements. Thank you, Niels, and thanks for taking the time, and thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe if you want to see the next episode of AI Watch. Have a great day.